Monday, 27 July 2026. 3 Asia-Pacific AI stories before your first coffee. Kuala Lumpur is pushing Malaysia's first horizontal AI law toward a 31 July legislative deadline, while 3 other Asian jurisdictions are simultaneously tightening their own frameworks. South Korea's amended AI Basic Act has now taken effect. China's companion AI rules have passed their first fortnight of enforcement, and Hong Kong is signaling a shift towards statutory data governance for AI systems. The convergence marks the densest single week of binding AI regulation the region has seen, with 4 major economies moving from guidance to hard law almost in parallel. Why it matters? Builders shipping products across Southeast and Northeast Asia now face a compliance surface that is widening faster than most legal teams have staffed for. Malaysia's horizontal approach means every sector, from fintech to health tech, falls under one regime rather than sector-specific carve-outs. So startups without dedicated policy counsel will feel the drag first. South Korea's Basic Act amendment layers new transparency and risk classification duties onto foundation model providers, which hits domestic players like Naver and Kakao directly. The second order effect to track is whether this regulatory clustering accelerates a regional mutual recognition push, because without one, multi-market operators face 4 distinct compliance stacks with no portability between them. So, Hanoi's National Assembly has put Vietnam's law on AI into force as of 1 March 2026, making it the first binding AI statute in Southeast Asia. Decree 142, effective 1 May 2026, layers on 3 risk tiers: mandatory classification before deployment, content labeling for AI outputs, and a 72-hour incident reporting window. Legacy systems face a compliance deadline of 1 March 2027, with extensions to 1 September 2027 for finance, healthcare, and education. Why it matters? Vietnam has set the compliance clock for the entire ASEAN corridor. Any builder deploying AI products across the region now has to map risk classifications and labeling obligations to Vietnamese rules first, because this is the only enforceable framework on the books. Malaysia's draft bill takes a different angle, treating AI inputs and outputs as intellectual property. Indonesia is working on binding presidential rules, and Singapore continues with its sectoral approach. The practical effect is that multinationals running AI workloads across Southeast Asia face a patchwork of obligations, with Vietnam's deadlines arriving first. Capital allocators backing regional AI platforms should watch the 1 March 2027 legacy cutoff closely, because non-compliant systems will either need retrofitting or risk being pulled from the Vietnamese market entirely. Now, Bangkok's Board of Investment recorded 1.47 trillion baht, roughly $43.6 billion in investment finance for the first half of 2026, up 37% year-on-year, with the digital sector accounting for 1.115 trillion baht, about $33 billion, driven almost entirely by data center and cloud builds. Foreign filings surged 80% to 1.37 trillion baht across 877 projects, and Singapore alone supplied $33.2 billion of that total through 158 projects, making the city-state the dominant capital source for Thailand's AI infrastructure work. Why it matters? Thailand is now the loudest proof point that Southeast Asia's AI build-out is a capital allocation event, not just a policy aspiration. Approvals have reached $38.7 billion, but power, water, and grid timelines are the binding constraints, meaning developers who can secure utility interconnection fastest will set the pace. Singapore's outsized role as funder signals that the island's own land and power limits are pushing hyperscale capital into neighbors with cheaper acreage and available megawatts. Builders should watch Thai grid expansion approvals closely, aiming to lay ripples into rough delivery schedules across the region, and secondary beneficiaries include EPC contractors and independent power producers positioned along Thailand's eastern economic corridor. That is your AI in Asia briefing for today. Stay sharp, build well, see you tomorrow.